Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever the fuck you're watching this episode. It's another episode of the Blitz, baby, and we back. And not just we, and by we, I really mean Andy. Back from the hiatus, back from, the fortress of fucking solitude. My man's back in the game, and it's a beautiful time to come back. Brand new season coming up. Gary, we'll get to you in a minute. Andy, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Denver Broncos hiatus. Rear view.
Listen,
Let's
needed to
ride.
happen. needed to happen. Listen, this is LeBron James Cleveland return. Love it. Absolutely fucking with the vibes. Gary, how are you, man?
I'm gonna be like Kyrie and go to Boston.
Yo, toxic as shit. I knew it. My man's toxic as shit. Hey, shit changed since last year. We've all learned nothing. Oh man. And
No more things for Gary.
Guys, I'm great. Thanks for asking. So, listen, we got a lot of shit to get into. There's been a lot of stuff happening. Listen, Baker Mayfield has a new job, and he's a starter somewhere. You know, who saw that coming? Who saw the Broncos having a shit season last year? Everybody but Andy. Althouse, man.
Good to see you, Aaron.
Good to see you, Aaron. Gary, what would you say is the most important thing that we need to get into first?
Let's start in the AFC with our division winners, bud.
AFC division winners. We're standing pretty uniform, I'd say. I don't really think there's a couple obviously in the wild card conversation that we'll get to, but going into the AFC North, the East, the West, and the South, we're 100% square. I don't know that this has happened on any of the number of years worth of predictions we've done here. This is probably a first. Is it because all of the divisions there's the clear-cut winner? Is there anyone in the wild card that you really waffled on? I guess is the better question to ask for AFC.
I think two divisions are pretty safe. The AFC West and the AFC South, I think, because the Chiefs are that much better than the rest of the AFC West, but also the rest of the AFC South is that much worse than the Jags. Not to say, I don't want to shit on those at Duval and say like, oh, the Jags aren't that great, but I just think that looking at the AFC South, the Jags are kind of head and shoulders above the rest of that division. In the East and in the North, I think there are challengers that need to be, considered in terms of whether or not they have a chance to win the division. Obviously, the hype train in New York with Rodgers, is he going to be able to make them that much better than they were last year? Obviously, they were a contending team last year, really good defense, shitty quarterback play. He was too busy fucking everybody's mom. But is Rodgers going to make them that much better? I don't really know, right? Because the last we saw of Rodgers, he was kind of a shell of himself in Green Bay. Still a decent quarterback, but not Aaron Rodgers, right? And then obviously down in Miami, can Tua stay healthy? They've got a great running game. They've got a great head coach that can scheme up a good running game. They've got an aggressive defense, and they've got the two cheetahs on the outside that are going to give you fucking headaches. And do you sleep on Bill Belichick? Maybe, maybe not. They've got Bill O'Brien back for that offense. Is that going to be enough to get them into contention? I just looked at it with the East, Buffalo, that much better, I think, than the rest of the division when it comes to regular season success. Same thing in the North. The Ravens are going to be there to contend. Cleveland, I think people are expecting to be better because Deshaun Watson's got a season under his belt. Pittsburgh's got that great defense. Can they figure it out on offense? Will their offensive line stay together? Can Najee Harris get a little bit of blocking at some point in his fucking career?
Please, God. Yeah.
Right. For me, I stuck with the Bengals too because I just think what the Bengals have going right now is it's too good for the rest of the AFC North.
We often say defense wins championships, and the North, we all pick the team with the worst defense, which is kind of funny. It's a good defense there. I echo a lot of what Gary says. I was most unsure about the Bills in that division, honestly, just because the improvements. I mean, anytime you bring in Aaron Rodgers with a really good defense and some playmakers on offense, that's scary, obviously. And then everything you mentioned about the Dolphins, if Tua is healthy. However, my pick for the Bills was more of like, put some respect on their name. I feel like at this point they've earned to be the big brother of the division. I just, and again, you mentioned New England. New England could be a little scary. So to me, that was the biggest one, followed by Cincy. I just think you look at two teams that were potential powerhouses last year, and while their division rivals got a lot better, Baltimore's good. Cleveland's going to have a good defense. You can't count out Mike Tomlin. But, yeah, I mean, Cincy, 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. The Bills, they just got to get over that hump. McDermott and Allen got to get it together and make something happen. I'm tired of, like, the crowd saying, you can't blame Josh Allen for everything. Well, we got to blame him for something. Yeah, he's got to be held accountable. He's the head and shoulders the best player on that team, probably the best player in that division. So like, we've got to blame him at some point. So let's go get it over the hump. Joe Burrow did it. He's been there. It's your turn.
You mentioned talked about Josh Allen for a couple of years now.
7-2 down the stretch to save that season too. Sorry, Raul.
No, I was just going to say, we've talked about Josh Allen and his problems and his risk-taking and decision-making skills, behind center for a couple of years now. It's kind of been his biggest Achilles heel, is that he's his own worst enemy. He's had tools, he's had valuable assets, he's had he hasn't had the strongest run game, admittedly, but, I mean, he's had some good protection. He's been able to be the show up and show out quarterback that we all know him to be and go sling the pigskin 60 yards. But yeah, I mean, he's his own worst fucking enemy sometimes, man. Granted, the Bills went through a traumatic season last year, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see them I'd like to see them in the Super Bowl. I really, really tossed and turned about the idea of them going to the Super Bowl this year.
I think to double down on what you said there with
the due diligence for being the best in the division. But at the same time, we have to see it for the Super Bowl. Like, I mean,
right.
that's prove us on that, and like you've proven us, in your division.
Right.
Running game issues too. You mentioned Josh is his own worst enemy. I think in Buffalo they fall back too much to Josh might be the best running back on that team too, and they probably should lean a little more heavily on James Cook this year and company. They've got Damian Harris now, who I think can be that short yardage back for them, but they've got to actually show a commitment to the run. They go away from it so quickly that, it just seems that, Josh is going to figure it out for us. And we saw the elbow injury last year really sapped him. So they've got to protect him from himself in a lot of ways, but they've also got to have a run game to really take defenses out of pin our ears back and chase Josh around mode.
Yeah. And just block. If you're that line, block.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just protect your quarterback. We talked about, we haven't really, I mean, it's not super relevant, but I was just talking to a buddy of mine earlier tonight. He was saying that Belichick just released both of his backup quarterbacks. Do you think he's going to be making a move for Colt McCoy?
Could be. Jake Fromm got released too, who's a guy who showed a bit in the preseason. There's some guys out there, but for all you last year that were talking about Bailey Zappi as if he was the next coming of Tom Brady, wing and a fucking miss.
Isn't Mac Jones paranoid right now that he's going to walk into that locker room and see fucking Tom Brady making out with his kid? Like, there's got to be a real like in the back of your mind thing. There is Brady coming to camp.
Maybe, man. Imagine that reunion.
I mean, it's not.
Mr. Steal your career. Oh, man. All right. So unified there. Are we just going to get straight into the NFC picks and then go wild card? Do you want to go into wild card?
Let's stay in the AFC. Let's talk wild cards.
All right. Staying in the AFC pocket, we're going into wild cards. We see a little bit of differences here. So Andy picking the Baltimore Ravens, the Chargers, and the Dolphins. I'm with the Jets, Chargers, and Dolphins. And then Gary putting faith in Coach Mike. And you can't blame the man because, again, like I feel like Mike Coach Tomlin is getting the same respect at this point as a Belichick, as in you cannot count him out. He's shown way too much success from an offensive perspective and ability to pull through some adversarial shit team situations and still keep a very long streak alive for a very long time. So, yeah, I mean, I think all of these are reasonable. I think maybe me and Andy giving a little extra, or me and Gary giving a little extra love to Aaron. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I think that's going to be encompassing everybody. Dolphins, Chargers, Ravens, Jets are kind of and Steelers I feel like are the only one that I felt like could maybe the that may be your long shot.
Yeah, I like the defense. I also like how much capital they've invested in fixing that offensive line. That was the problem the last few years for Ben Roethlisberger. They couldn't get a running game going. They couldn't protect him, and he wasn't the mobile guy that he was in his 20s and early 30s. And he got beat up, right? He was just, his body was fucking broken and busted from motorcycle accidents and, just taking so many goddamn hits on the field because he would never throw the ball. He was a guy who held the ball forever. I like Kenny Pickett. I think that he showed a lot of improvement over the second half of last year. George Pickens is a guy who can make plays. But for me, the success of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year is going to come down to whether they can get Najee Harris going behind an improved, or it needs to be improved, offensive line, so that they can open up that offense a little bit, because it's, 2 yards in a cloud of dust isn't going to work in the modern NFL, even with a defense that's as historically good as the Steelers have been the last 2 seasons. TJ Watt, obviously he's a monster. They're really good on the back end, linebacker play, but they have to get Najee Harris going in the running game. Giving him 250 carries a year to get 1,100 yards is not going to fucking cut it for very long. He's going to wear down, and you're going to lose basically the prime of that running back's career. So for me, I like what they've done investing in the offensive line. I'm showing some optimism that I think they're going to be improved on the offensive line. And I think this boils down a little bit to, like, I don't trust the Ravens offense either. It was between the Steelers and the Ravens really here. The Dolphins I considered as well. But to me, this last wild card spot came down to the Steelers and the Ravens. And I trust the Steelers defense, Mike Tomlin, and I gave some credit for the fact that they've invested in that offensive line. And that's why I went with the Steelers over the Ravens here. The Ravens are going to try to throw the ball, and I don't think that's their best option, honestly. So we'll see how that works out for them. They've got some weapons there, but give me the Steelers here because of the defense, and I think they're going to improve in the running game.
Gary, did you see anything on that list that surprised you?
What's that?
I picked the Ravens because I don't think they're going to try to throw the ball. They say they're going to try to throw the ball. It's going to be the Lamar show. Obviously, needs to be healthy. I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, other than I have Pittsburgh 4th in the division. You have them in the wild card, but I think it's such a close, it's going to be a tug of war in that division in my mind.
Right. They may finish 4th at like 8 and 9. Potentially.
Right. And I think there's 3 teams that could finish 2nd. There's 3 teams that could finish 3rd. There's 3 teams that could finish 4th. I mean, that's really how I kind of laid that division out.
Yeah.
100%. Did you see anybody on that list of what we put up for our wild card picks that was surprising, or anybody that you feel like?
See, I gave the Jets their flowers a little bit earlier, but I don't know if I don't know, because I believe the Bills are that good, and I think Miami's going to be better. And I think that Aaron Rodgers, Gary talked about him regressing a little bit. That line is terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they bring in Dalvin Cook. You have Brees coming back from the knee injury. The young receiver core, the defense is great, but that offensive line, we saw it a little bit in preseason. Aaron Rodgers running for his life. I mean, it's not, I don't know how conducive to winning that's going to be with an older, maybe
he's tagging Bakhtiari in fucking Instagram posts.
Right. I mean, it could be trouble really quick. Like, I think Josh Allen is in a similar situation with his line, but he's going to get away with it because he's bigger, he's tougher, he's more mobile.
He's younger.
And he's younger. He's a huge dude. I mean,
big guy.
Just a mammoth of a guy. And he's been in the system too. I mean, when you can't really take anything away from that.
Definitely. 100%. All right. So jumping into the AFC, we're going to go into we're going to pick our winners. So NFC. Okay. We're going to go NFC.
Gary's just going to be different.
Yeah.
You want to pick AFC champs? We can do that. We can do that.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm sorry. I jumped the gun.
It's all good, man. I just work here. So me and Andy, we got to back up Irish Patty, right? And then Gary, not so bad pick with the got to go with the Tiger King. See if he can get his chance. Tablets being broken, dude. It's got to be 4, right? Like, that's the number that comes. Yeah, I'm saying 4.
I think he's already broken 4.
Yeah, probably in the preseason.
less coverage.
So yeah, I definitely waffled a lot on this one, and I waffled between the three teams that fucking matter right now, and that's the Chiefs, it's the Bengals, and the Bills. Those are the three teams that I waffled about, and I think the Bengals were still kind of a close second to the Chiefs, and then the Bills. And I don't necessarily think that if you're looking at their capabilities that's the way it should look. I just trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Josh Allen.
Joe Burrow does this amazing thing where he just gets sacked a million times, and he has this line that doesn't give a shit about him, and he's just like, all right. I mean, it's fine. He's accepted that fate at this point, and I mean, I would love to see. There's an interesting thing with like if you talk about like Jalen Hurts and how good that Philly line is, and it's like if I saw Joe Burrow behind that kind of line,
oh my God.
I mean, we may be talking about is Joe Burrow better than Pat Mahomes? I mean, some people have already had that discussion. I said last year that I thought, not on this show because I was hiding from Broncos fans, but I talked a lot with, I thought that, going into the season, Josh Allen was my second ranked quarterback behind Mahomes. I think Burrow overtook him last year. So that line sucks. He's figured it out anyways. I waffled on that one and the Bills a little bit too, but I don't know, man. I just think we watch Mahomes do it on one.
Yeah. He's Mr. Consistent. He's got all the tools he needs to be successful. I mean, they're the most put together team. And then you add that with fucking, Cheeseburger Andy, we're good to go.
Yeah, the big thing for me with the Chiefs is, one, it's hard to repeat, right? Obviously, you've got the target on your back all year, et cetera, but they keep losing talent on that offensive line. And I keep thinking, right, that it's eventually going to catch up with them. We saw Mahomes take a lot of hits last year at the end of the year, one of which put him essentially on that one leg. He was able to power through it. Whoever's on that training staff, if you've watched the documentary on Netflix, they were absolutely working him with that ankle during the playoffs, trying to make sure that he could stay on the field. I see a little more kind of dwindling from that offense. And if Chris Jones holds out for any significant amount of time this year, as he's threatening to potentially sit out till week 8, that defense is no good without Chris Jones. Let's not put any fucking let's not mistake it at all. If they're not getting pressure up the middle, that secondary is fucking liquid dog shit. So Kansas City's going to have to score points early in the year if Chris Jones does sit out. And if you don't have home field in the playoffs, I give the favor to who I think is probably going to end up with the 1 seed in the AFC. If Kansas City stumbles at all, I think Cincinnati ends up with the 1 seed. If they've got to go to Cincinnati and play in the chili capital, I just think that Cincinnati's going to be able to knock off Kansas City. And they've done it in Burrowhead. So why not in Cincinnati, right? I just look at it that way. I think Kansas City right now has got some real issues with personnel that may start to rear their heads. Patty Mahomes covered up a lot of the problems with wide receiver last year, but they got even worse at wide receiver this year, losing a couple of guys, lost some talent on the offensive line. I wonder how much we're going to see this Kansas City Chiefs team really struggle to find and plug those holes. I think by the end of the season, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be obviously one of the best teams in the AFC by the end of the season. But if they've got to go on the road in the playoffs, I worry about Kansas City.
Fair enough. An excellent point there, Senior.
Yeah, Andy Reid.
So let's jump into the NFC now, since Gary's already kind of leaked that shit. Fucking.
And I'm on the wrong fucking one, of course.
I'm gonna leak the script, then fuck the script up.
Fuck's sake, dude! You're like the worst Snowden there ever was.
Fuck's sake, bud.
Anyways, all right. So NFC North, me and Andy. I mean, look, me and Andy are in lockstep here, and Gary's just out here on his own. NFC North pick being Vikings. Is anybody surprised? Like, is anybody, Senior, Altas, anybody who's on this, please chime in. Is any of that surprising? For fuck's sake. The only one to me that is surprising is that he's going to pick the Cowboys in the East.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
psychological warfare is what that is.
Oh, dude, that's a psyop if I've ever seen one, dog. That is 100%. He's getting in my fucking head, and I hate it.
Listen, 2 points, and I know we're in lockstep in the West and the South here, but 2 points on the Vikings, one on the Cowboys. The Vikings have the best quarterback and the best wide receiver in that division. They have the best quarterback in the division. They have the best wide receiver in football. Their defense is going to improve a touch, but they've got an offensive mind that they just continue to score points. And I like Detroit. I said it last year. They were my dark horse to make the playoffs, and I got laughed at last year about it. But they were literally in week 17 with a shot to make the playoffs last year. I've got them, not to spoil too much, but I've got them as a wild card. I think it's going to be close in that division. I've got both teams winning 11 and 10 games at the top of that division. I think it's going to be a more competitive division this year than it's been in years past. It's not kind of one runaway team like it's been the last few years. The Packers are going to be down, I think, with the loss of Rodgers, and they were down last year. The Bears are still building. I just think with the Vikings, it just came down to they've still got the best wide receiver in football. Jordan Addison is going to be a really good rookie for them. With the Cowboys, I'm finally buying this fucking defense, man. Last year I said they're going to regress to the mean. They led the league in turnovers in 2021. I said, they're going to regress to the mean, and without those turnovers, that offense is going to struggle. Guess what they did last year? They led the league in fucking turnovers again on defense. Dan Quinn is a mastermind. Dan Quinn covers up a lot of issues that they have in the secondary with what he can do up front and what he does in combo coverages. And I'm buying the Eagles coming back this year a bit. They lost a lot of talent in free agency, and they were able to reload at some positions. But I don't think DeAndre Swift is going to play more than maybe 5 games for them. Andy, you're a Lions fan. You know this firsthand. The dude spends more time on IR than anybody ever.
He'll play more than 5 games. He's just going to do that thing where he plays like
5 snaps.
Games. He's going to play 12 games, and you think he played 6. Like that's
right.
Just what he did. It's what he did.
So I buy the Eagles coming back to the division, and I buy the Cowboys defense continuing to bolster them. And I think they're just going to open up the offense more without Zeke there for them to think they have to turn around and stick it in the belly of him and run off guard. They're just going to get to the edge with Tony Pollard. And Deuce Vaughn, sneaky big pick for them because you can't ever find him. He's going to be a nice change of pace back for them. He's going to run between the legs of all the offensive linemen because he's fucking 3'7". But,
yeah, and then we still have Ronnie Jones, is that his name is?
Yeah, he's a big back, short yards guy.
Yeah, definitely. But he's younger, a little bit more agile Zeke. I kind of like him just as a big third down back, somebody just kind of plow through the line. Because look, I'm nervous about the idea of giving Tony Pollard, a 3rd and 1 on the goal line and expecting to go right.
They're not going to ask him to do that.
It's not the move, right? Exactly. But you have a Ronnie Jones that can go, drop shoulder and plow that bitch in.
Yep.
So. Most recent off-season news here for the Dallas Cowboys is the Trey Lance acquisition. For a 4th round pick, which kind of surprising, but is Trey Lance going to be the bust that everyone knows him to be?
That dude has had like 3 first rounders and a 4th rounder traded for him already in his short NFL career.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest thing. My thing is this:
on him.
If you're Dallas, though, here I saw Dallas fans pissing and moaning about this a little bit. If you're Dallas, what are your expectations for your 4th round pick? Are you going to pick a 4th round pick that's going to be a starter? Because not many 4th round picks become starters. So I looked at the number. I forget what it was. It was less than like 20%. It's something stupid. So you're taking a flyer on a kid who was going to be like a 2 to 3 year project to begin with, good athlete. You got Dak expires the season after next. So I don't mind it. I think there's too much value put in a 4th round pick here.
The other thing too is like San Francisco didn't like trade up and take a guy nobody had fucking heard of. He was the consensus for a long time during that draft process. He was the consensus number 1 quarterback. And he slid a little bit during the evaluation process and the fact that he didn't play that collegiate season. But they didn't trade up and just take a fucking jackass from nowhere. They took a guy that everybody said was an elite athlete with elite arm talent, with elite potential at the next level. It didn't work out. But if you're Dallas, do you not take a flyer on that guy? Right? Like potentially
for a 4th round pick, I think it's
legitimately a top 5 pick. a 4th round pick. I'd give a 4th round pick for that potential. Even if he never gets there.
What circles do, this is what people do, is people go look at the fucking top 20 4th round picks of all time, and they're like, could have had that. Now we got chance. And it's going to be worse if it never develops into anything, because people are so volatile. I agree, Gary, with the draft process. The big thing with that is if you look at the guys drafted after him, which that's what everybody's doing. There's a fucking sheet this long. Look at these guys. Look at Jamar Chase, and look at, like, it's just, and then they look real fucking dumb. You can do that every year. So that's part of it. I did have one thing about Philly, though, when you were talking about Philly. I think if Philly's smart, because they have Penny and Swift now, who neither of them like to play many games. Right. So if I'm Philly, the reason I like Philly so much is
never played both of them in the same game.
With Hurts in his 3 big receiving, right? They're going to split, give him 6 snaps each. With Hurts in his big 3 receiving weapons, I think you just line Swift up and let him be a slot receiver, and he's going to do most of his damage there anyway. They have like 4 capable running backs on that roster. They probably have arguably the best offensive line in the league, arguably the best defensive line in the league. They've probably got a top 10 secondary. Like, that team is still pretty well set up. If Hurts is really good again, I think they're tough to beat. That was my big thing. I almost don't even know if the running back availability is going to matter. It's like a San Fran thing. Look at San Fran for years. They could just throw anybody out there. Fucking Milkman, Paperboy, 100 yards a game. Like,
everybody was eating.
Right. They're just like, get the whole offensive line to fucking do a huddle and just fall forward, and we're getting 3 yards every fucking time. Like, it's just that's my thing with Philly.
I'm just trying to either feed or humble the hype around the man. But is Jason Kelce the best center in the NFL?
He may be the best center to ever play the game. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll stack him up against
dog shit. He's not wet dog shit. He doesn't suck.
Right.
That's not very good praise at all, really. It's
he's pretty fucking fantastic. Even at his age. I mean, the guy's not getting any younger. But yeah, no.
That is one thing I was going to say.
We were lucky to have him back this year, right? I mean,
what's that?
Absolutely.
We were lucky to get Jason Kelce back this year in the NFL, right? Like, everybody thought he was going to retire.
Yeah. I honestly thought he really was going to retire. I had basically written it off like, okay, Philly's going to have to figure out who their center is next year. Yeah. That's one thing I will say about Philly, though, right? With the talk of them having the best offensive line in football. When healthy, 100% correct. They've been really fortunate the last 3 seasons that they've basically played like 85% of the snaps with the same 5 offensive linemen. That's probably not the exact number, but it's fucking close. If that stays true, then yeah, you're right, Andy. You're spot on that they should be able to line up, and with all that talent with Jalen Hurts, he should be able to have another great season. But they are a year older. Jason Kelce was contemplating retirement last year. How invested is he going to be? I'm sure he's going to be invested, right? I'm not doubting a professional athlete on that, but it's that question lingers of, as the grind of the season goes on, how much is he going to be thinking, maybe I should have retired, right? We'll see. They have a ton of talent. I just look at Dallas's defense. To me, the difference that they can make when they can turn you over with the way that they are able to do so. It reminds me of what Dan Quinn did in fucking Seattle, man. And he's doing it again in Dallas. So yeah, I look at that and I just think I'm finally buying. I said last year that they were going to regress to the mean, that Trevon Diggs is dog shit. He's still dog shit when you can get him in coverage, but he's almost never lined up in an isolation because of the way they're able to get after the quarterback.
It's fucking Diggs Island, baby. Out here.
Diggs fucking Island, and everybody's invited.
And then to your points in the North too, Gary. I mean, I see my thing being a Lions fan is I don't want to pick the Lions. I'm like sick of the hype train this year. Yeah. The end of last year, coming into this year. With the hype comes these fucking expectations that are often, missed. So I don't love it. My thing is I only picked Minnesota as a wild card team because I think the NFC is that bad. I think they're
I was going to mention this when we were talking.
I think they're an 8 or 9 win wild card team, in my opinion. They were a historically bad winner last year. They won. Would they win 13 games?
Yeah.
while surrendering more points than they scored. Like that's an insane stat.
Two of their losses, they got boat raced.
So that's I mean, and the Giants were flirting with that same sort of thing, if I do recall. I think they only outscored opponents by like 8 points. So,
when they played in the playoffs, it was like 18 combined games that had been decided by a score or something like that.
You called out Jefferson being the best wide receiver in the league. I think not many people would argue that. Cousins, the second best quarterback in the league in that division, you said, because I know you didn't say the best.
I did say best.
I'm not hearing you. So okay. I know you said Goff was best, right? And he was second best. I heard that. So yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, it's good.
Oh God. It's funny. You were just talking about how all hype is annoying you. I think it's just abnormal to hear things positive being spoken about the Lions. So welcome to, fan support. Andy, I know it's probably a foreign concept being a fucking Lions fan.
It's not the fans.
And sucking dick
Lions
from
fans
the
have been
back.
irrational.
No, for sure.
Be irrational. It's
right.
The media, like everybody's
the talking
like,
heads, right?
This fucking team. Every time I watch a video and it starts with like, who's your sleeper team to upset and make the Super Bowl and knock all these teams off, and they're like the Detroit, and I'm like, fucking Christ, I'm turning this video off. Like people picking them to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead week 1 already. Like I'm seeing it more and more and fucking more, and I'm like. Like get over it.
It's the same dickheads that you see on ESPN talking about the Cowboys are going to be something this year. I mean, it's the same shit.
Right. And that's not to say I don't like Detroit. I think they have a good team. I think they're going to build off of what they did. That's why I picked them to win the division. But I mean, I'm thinking maybe 11 wins here. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
We're also talking about an NFC that almost got locked down by the NFC East in the wild card, where fucking, like the Commanders were just above 500 on the season, and we're going to lock down a wild card spot, which would have been sick if the fucking NFC East locked in the wild cards. But anyways, let's move on to the wild cards while we're at it. So we're going to jump into the NFC wild cards. We've got some separation here. Okay. Me and Andy giving some love to the beloved Vikings of Gary, since he's already picked them to win to the division in the North. Gary exchanging, we've basically just traded off. Gary's picking the Lions in the North, whereas we're picking the Vikings. Gary picked the Cowboys, and we're picking the Cowboys in the wild card. Gary's picking the Eagles to take the wild card spot in the NFC East, and the Seattle Seahawks to take on their division, whereas I've got the Commanders and Andy's got the Giants. So interesting little turn here.
Battle.
It really is, man. That last spot for me was the one that I didn't want to give it to the Giants, because I don't think that they're at a point where, like, I saw something that was good in Washington that I felt like can be replicated and put them into a comfortable wild card position this year. But when you're talking about Seattle and Geno Smith's season last year, which was fantastic. I mean, he had a great, not only above average, but it was his best season to date. And it was a great look on the Seattle organization. But for sure, the Eagles are going to be a problem. The Cowboys are going to be a problem. There's a lot of teams here that are already kind of shoo-in. So it's that 7th seed that you're worried about for sure. And so it sounds like we've got 3 separate selections there. I've got the Redskins, which I think even people want the Redskins back to being the Redskins, which I'm fucking here for.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
No, dude, of course not. But I would fucking love to see it, because the Commanders are.
It is so. Listen, quick aside about that. Every motherfucking press conference, every fucking beat writer who posts on social media, every fucking post that has the Washington Commanders in any tangential way, someone's in there saying, HTTR, bring the name back. Woo! Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Jesus.
Tangential.
Yeah.
Dude.
That word.
You need to fucking quit going to college, dog. Like, that was unacceptable. All right.
Listen, he's been doing this shit for fucking years, though. This isn't even a product of college. You have bullshit. You've been saying shit like that so long that I didn't even catch it when you just said it. Raul caught it. I'm used to that shit.
Dude, you've been using these 3+ syllable ass words since the Navy, dog. I know that
Walking
for a
around
fact.
with a fucking encyclopedia. What's
What's a synonym
dodgeball?
for? Fucking you fucking nerd.
Periodic table having ass in your pocket ass, boy.
Bro, just give yourself a swirly, you bitch, you. So, anyways, wild card spot. The more you know. So let's pick a division. Let's pick the division, the conference winner. We're gonna jump into it.
I want to hear from you why you have the Commanders, though. Really,
I feel like they were tapping into something great last year. I feel like they were working into a good rhythm. I feel like they were on the right track. I feel like there's some listen, I don't have faith in their fucking coach, but I feel like Dan Snyder not being a part of the problem, being a part of the organization can be net positive. I think I trust them more than I trust the Giants because you can't trust Daniel Jones. You just can't. Like I think that entire last season for the fucking Giants was an anomaly, and we won't see that.
yeah, it was magic and rainbow farts. And Andy, you think they can do that again this year? Just play that kind of sound.
Listen, I mean, I just said it a minute ago when I was talking about Minnesota, but the Giants were pretty close to that mark too. I think with the almost giving up more points than they scored. You know what it is with them is I kind of had like 3 teams. Seattle was one of them. The Giants. I don't remember who the third team I had was, and I just couldn't fucking decide which team I thought was better than the other ones. It's more for me about what the other teams can do. I don't believe in Geno Smith. Like I think that was more of a farce than what the Giants did. I don't know that. I'm not sure. I like the addition of Waller. I think part of me as a fan of the game is hoping Saquon Barkley can put it together. I agree Daniel Jones is a trash can. I just don't know if he's more of a trash can than some of these other quarterbacks. The Commanders, I wasn't even really thinking about them. I don't really know if I love their quarterback situation. It would be nice because they have some offensive weapons.
Right.
But yeah, I just kind of fucking threw a dart and it landed in New Jersey.
Yeah, the Commanders are definitely kind of my dark horse as far as the wild card spot. I just, I actually want them to do well because I do, like Scary Terry is an all-timer for me right now. I think he's such a prolific receiver that he just, I mean, fuck, man. I just want him to do. It's like watching Justin Fields. I just want him to do good. You know what I'm saying?
Football players, we want to see Scary Terry be scary, and I mean. Senior just brought up, the good point. He doesn't think Daniel Jones can make it happen. I don't think he made it happen last year. I think they just did it anyways. I watched.
I think it was 4, maybe 5 Giants games because they're always on fucking TV because it's the Giants and it's New York City. And in every one of those games, they were not the better team on the field, but they won all but one of those games that I watched them play. It was fucking unbelievable watching them play and look like a fucking Pop Warner team, but you look up at the end of the game and they won the game fucking 13-12 because Brian Dable somehow figured out a way to get Daniel Jones loose on a fucking naked bootleg at the end of the game. Like it was unfucking real what the Giants did last year. And I'll equate it to baseball. The Yankees and the Mets were this way last year and they're fucking awful this year. So I have a little bit of the same feeling with the Giants that we're going to get to the end of the year. And all those Giants fans that Andy, you and I especially know from up there in New York are going to be really fucking pissed that they gave Daniel Jones fucking, what they give him, 4 years, $68 million or whatever it was they gave him.
A bag,
unbelievable fucking number.
Listening to people fucking justify that, like when I immediately was texting Giants fans like, "How you guys feeling?"
Oh,
and they're all God. Like, they will explain the fuck out of it to you, and I'm like, bro, when Jared Goff was bad, I was fucking killing this man every fucking time he touched the football. Like, you guys have to do the same thing. You know Daniel Jones wasn't good.
Yeah. I will say this, though, on the Commanders. I am being maybe a little intentionally cautious with them because the last time I felt this way about a Washington team going into a season, I was very, very fucking young, and Joe Gibbs was still the coach. I really actually like what they've got going on. I'm just so fucking jaded that I'm so prepared to be let down by this team. Sam Howell has looked really good in the preseason. Aaron mentioned him, and you mentioned him as well, Raul. Sam Howell's looked really good in the preseason. Sam Howell, prior to his junior season, was projected to be like the top quarterback in his draft class. Had a bad season at North Carolina. They were a bad team, so he dropped precipitously. But it just like, yeah, sorry, I did it again. Yeah, fine, nerd,
Bro.
fucking stop. But
Honestly,
the,
I I didn't hear it again. I just saw Raul's reaction.
but defensively, I look at it. They've got all those studs on the front four. The back end looks a lot better this year, and as you guys already mentioned, they've got weapons. Brian Robinson is a really good running back. They've got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson they're really good on the outside, and they've got Diami Brown, who could be a really good slot wide receiver for them. And they've got tight ends this year that can catch the ball, not just Logan Thomas, who never plays. They've got other guys behind him. Cole Turner's a name for you fantasy guys out there. If Logan Thomas inevitably pulls a hamstring, keep an eye on him because he could be a guy who's going to get targets. I just can't bring myself to say this is the team. I picked them last year to win the fucking division, thinking I was going to be cute and we were going to get Taylor Heineke magic for the whole year. They let me down, and I'm not fucking doing it again. I'm not doing it again. I'll be there every fucking Sunday, but every Tuesday you're going to hear it from me if Ron lets me down again.
Dude, and Sam Howell sounds like a fucking Ivy League rich dude. Sounds like he is going to meet his final destination moment on a fucking submarine made out of tinfoil, trying to find the Titanic. I don't know. So real quick before we move to that, the championship part, Carolina was the team. The other one I was kind of mulling on for a wild card. Did anybody think about Carolina, or was I the only one?
I think they're 2 years away. Honestly,
listen,
the South is bad. Though.
The NFC is so bad.
The South
is
really
bad. The division is so bad that
the Saints have the easiest schedule, which is kind of the deciding factor for me. Number one in terms of weakest strength of schedule this year. That was kind of the deciding factor for me. Plus, Atlanta's getting a lot of love in the media. I don't buy it with Atlanta.
They ended hot last year.
Yeah.
You know, they I guess they had an upgrade with Miles Sanders. They bring in the corpse of Thielen. But I just they were one I considered. Ultimately they were my third place.
I like Bryce Young eventually there. I think that they're probably 2 years away. I think they've got a good infrastructure in place. Quick aside on Sam Howell, the Red Wolves was actually one of the teams that a lot of people expected the Commanders to go with instead of the Commanders, but they couldn't get the trademark rights to it, which would have been really cool if your quarterback's name was fucking Howell. Just throwing that out there.
True. Dad jokes.
Yes.
It still doesn't take away from the fact that like we don't need your fucking $2 words here. Okay. So anyways, you're educated. We got it, Dr. Freeze.
No invites for Gary for words for friends. Words with friends. Never.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm getting annihilated. I'm in construction, dog. We ain't doing none of that around here. Okay.
If I get a request, that shit's just not getting answered.
I gotta leave your ass on red, boy. All right, let's jump into our conference picks here. Who's gonna win?
I have to apologize. I don't know what I did with the overlay for the NFC Championship, so we can just give our pick since I fucked up.
Fair enough. Andy, let's start with you.
I don't remember. No, I'm just kidding. So my NFC. Well, we're just doing conference winner, right?
This conference, yeah.
The conference champion, I had the San Francisco 49ers.
I had the Eagles.
I had the Niners as well.
There it is.
Yeah. So you think the Eagles are going to keep it going this year? They're going to go back to the Super Bowl, Raul?
I think so. I'm not seeing a lot of. I'm not really seeing enough talent outside of the Niners really to take down. The Niners are their only real competition this year. They're absolutely a powerhouse. They are the team to beat, and I think that I made the mistake of not trusting the Niners last year, and they made a pretty pretty strong run. I was pretty vocal against them all season, and I'm going to probably continue that this year. But, yeah, I'm going to see it through and through. And even if it means that I have to fucking pick the Eagles to win the NFC, I still don't think that the Niners are Super Bowl caliber yet.
I think the biggest factor for the Niners is health. I think we saw that on full display last year, that
Right.
when healthy, especially with McCaffrey and what they can do with him when he's healthy, they are dangerous on both sides of the ball. They've still got one of the 2, maybe 3 best defenses in the league. That front 4 is unbelievable. And the way they can control the ball and control the tempo on offense, I don't care who Kyle Shanahan puts in there at quarterback. If he'd have been given time to prepare Christian McCaffrey to play quarterback, they probably would have won that game anyway. But, realistically speaking, it's always going to be health with them, because we saw how bad they were after Purdy went down. Lance went down midseason. They just seem to always have this weird IR-laden team. They're always dealing with injuries. They're always dealing with, rotating guys in and out. If they stay healthy, I don't know who beats them in terms of anybody, especially in the NFC.
Well, yeah, and that defensive line gets scarier with the addition of Hargrave, which is then also the departure on the other end. So, I mean, they're tough, man. I just the biggest thing for me when I look at those 2 defenses is, I even just said that I thought Philly had the best D line. I don't know which defense I think is truly better, but I think San Fran's is scarier. That defense is just in your face, full intensity. And, I mean, I think they were a Brock Purdy injury away from being in the Super Bowl, and I was picking them to win the Super Bowl. So I don't think they got worse. We talk about the health. Obviously, you got to have a healthy quarterback. I think they've upgraded at the backup with Sam Darnold. Christian McCaffrey's got to be healthy. Deebo Samuel's got to be healthy. I expect Brandon Ayuk to have a big breakout season this year. He's one of the guys that I was looking at, especially on the offensive end, to just really kind of take the lid off the thing this year. And a second year with Purdy, I think we can get that done. Kittle continues to be one of the premier tight ends in the league. I think everything is – the writing is on the wall. They have to stay healthy. Oh, okay.
I think you mentioned him.
I was trying to read while I was talking.
Sorry.
I was looking deeply into my own eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see it. I mean.
Yeah, potentially. I think Brock Purdy could be a candidate for regression. He kind of took the league by storm. We've always talked about it, right? Once the film gets out there, we'll see what kind of adjustments they make. I trust Kyle Shanahan. I always do. But, can teams take advantage of Brock Purdy? There's a reason he was Mr. Irrelevant. But you mentioned Brandon Ayuk. Keep an eye on him, especially you fantasy players out there, because as you mentioned, taking the top off the defense, he was winning on routes at a really high rate last year, which he wasn't doing his first 2 years in the league. In that offense, if he's winning on routes, there are so many opportunities, because you have to stack the box with how many different ways they hand the ball off to people in the backfield. Debo, even Ayuk himself, McCaffrey, Mitchell, etc. The way that they get you to come to the line of scrimmage, if Ayuk's beating you on the back end, good night, because he's got elite speed in this league.
Right, and Shanahan, quit running Debo up the fucking middle. Don't do that shit.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
Yeah.
Or Trey Lance.
That's how you lose them.
That's how you lose Trey Lance. Let's run him up the middle.
Yep, that's how you lose them both right there, is by keeping that shit up.
Yep.
100%. Well, Gary, what do you say we get to the most important part of our episode?
Yes, sir.
This episode is brought to you. This segment is called our Salute to Service. We are a veteran-owned sports podcast company. Myself and Gary being Navy veterans, and other veterans across all of our other channels or all of our other shows. And our favorite part of our show is where we get to dedicate an episode to a fallen service member. And our Salute to Service brought to you by Folds of Honor. This episode is going to be dedicated to Army Sergeant First Class Mitchell A. Lane, who passed away August 29th, 2003, serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. He was 34 years old from Lone Poke, California, and he was assigned to 2nd Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And he was killed during a fast rope infiltration into a cave complex in Afghanistan. Army Sergeant First Class Mitchell Lane, we have the watch. And now for the funnest transition, easiest, never awkward, always a breeze to get through. We have one segment left, gentlemen, and it's probably the most important in this show about the NFL, the fucking league. Who is your NFL picks? Me and Andy riding all the way with Irish Patty Mahomes. All three of us, however, sticking in the AFC as Gary picks the Tiger King. Also not a bad option. I waffled hard, boys. I waffled real fucking hard. I hated it. I hated the idea that I picked Irish Patty Mahomes, and it's nothing against the man. It's more against his wife. I hated the fact that we had to – I hated the fact that I had to not pick Joe Burrow this year, honestly. And it's because, like we talked about the entire show, the Chiefs are the most put-together team. Listen, receiving core is lacking to be desired, but I'm putting faith in Andy Reid. I'm putting faith in Irish Patty Mahomes. I'm putting faith in those two gentlemen alone in the run game to get them what they need to be successful. And they're kind of, they're similar in that you can trust their quarterbacks. I don't necessarily think I'm going to put Cincinnati's head coach over Andy Reid, but the receiving core is a much different ballgame in Cincinnati than it is in Kansas City. So, yeah, definitely waffled hard. So can't say I blame you there, Gary. Andy?
I waffled with two NFC teams at different points. I had obviously San Fran, who I picked to win the NFC, but there was a point where I had Philly to win the NFC and to win the Super Bowl. I also had San Fran to win the Super Bowl in my mind. Ultimately, I went with the Chiefs. It's so fucking hard to go against Mahomes. And again, I'm going to bring up the leg last year. Like everything was unreal. Gary, you posted on Facebook at one point, like, that's the game. There it is. Yeah. That's it. And I was like, I had just been saying that out loud in the living room. So, for them to do that, the receiver thing we talked about, that was the big problem last year was the wide receivers. And it didn't matter. Still got Kelsey. Looking for Sky Moore to have a big year. The Chris Jones thing, that's you brought it up earlier. That's the biggest thing I think for the Chiefs right now. But I just Patrick Mahomes, it's like riding that Tom Brady or riding that Peyton Manning Express at this point.
It's all reliable.
Vegas ain't touching that bet against.
Dude, can't do it, won't do it. Gary, I mean, sticking with Tiger King, nobody here really disagrees with you, I don't think.
I like it.
Yeah, and you guys are absolutely right? The Chiefs have earned exactly what you guys are giving them right now. The I can't bet against the Chiefs respect. It's what they've earned. It was the Brady Belichick respect that we gave them. It's, when these dynasties assemble and the Chiefs are, if they're not already considered a dynasty, give them another Super Bowl and they are, right? They're the next dynasty behind the Patriots, and they'll be the first to repeat since said dynasty of the Patriots. I just think, one, it's really hard to repeat. Two, I worry about the Chris Jones thing. If he's out for an extended amount of time, if the Chiefs drop 3 or 4 games early in the season, which they have a tough opening to the season, if they don't have their best player on defense available, that could happen, right? They could lose some track meets, some crapshoots. But I think if they've got to go on the road in the playoffs, it's going to be a big-time struggle for them. I waffled hard in the AFC. I didn't waffle so much in the NFC because of my thinking that I think the Eagles are going to come back to the pack. So I had the Niners that much better than everybody, right? You guys have the Eagles still with respect, right? I have them regressing a little bit. So that was my consideration in the NFC. The NFC was much easier for me in terms of who I think is going to win. The AFC was really tough for me. I considered all 7 teams that I picked because I just give that much respect to the AFC right now. It's such a deep conference. Even beyond the 7 teams that I picked, I could see 2, maybe 3 other teams that I think like If they get into the playoffs, I don't know who wants to play them, right? Who wants to play the Dolphins? I don't have the Dolphins in, Raul, you do, but who wants to play the Dolphins, right? Because they've got a lot of weapons and speed, et cetera. So for me, it was really hard with the AFC. What it came down to for me was where I thought the Bengals were going to finish in terms of the standings at the end of the season. I've got them going 14-3. I've got them winning the 1 seed, and I've got them hosting both Buffalo and Kansas City, and that being the difference between those three. I really considered Kansas City because of who they are and what they've done. Other things I worry about with Kansas City. You mentioned Sky Moore. You're looking for him to have a big season. I don't know if he's going to, right? Who's going to be that guy behind Kelsey? Last year, they got a lot out of Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju. They've lost Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Is Juju going to continue to be that guy? Is Sky Moore going to step up? Are they going to get anybody behind them that's any good? I don't know what they're going to get out of that receiving core. And I just worry, if they've got to go on the road. That's the deciding factor for me was where I expected these standings to end, and Kansas City's going to have to go on the road. I don't think they can go into a hostile environment in Cincinnati and knock off the Bengals.
Well, yeah,
I think I'm with you.
Obviously gone too. I mean, he went to New England.
Oh no, you're right. Juju did. That's right. Juju's gone too. Right. You're right.
You were right about him being a bum last year. So
yeah,
I think Raul and I gave you a little pushback on that.
You did.
I know I did.
Yeah. You did.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I was actually. I was
it's
actually.
Just me?
Yeah, no, I was definitely assuming that Juju was going to be a good, valuable contribution to the team. I thought he was going to have a bounce back.
Oh yeah. I said he was.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We gave him a little shit about it because he was saying he was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, enjoy that crow, Gary. I think that I think honestly, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think if Cincinnati gets the 1 seed and they're home, yeah, it's a wrap. I think Cincinnati's probably going to take it. The only people that could knock them off at that point would be the Bills. I don't think Patty can do it. Not in Cincinnati. And I think even then, Buffalo would struggle in Cincinnati. But I would actually put Buffalo to win in Cincinnati before I'd put the Chiefs to win in Cincinnati.
I struggle with what Buffalo did against Cincinnati last year. I replay that in my head like once a week about when in Romo was sitting there going, they're doing exactly what Peyton Manning used to do. And like McDermott had no fucking idea how to stop it. It was the simplest thing. I mean, again, it's not simple to guard per se with the weapons they have, but they weren't even like playing the correct defensive schemes. They just were. It was just picked apart, and they couldn't sack Burrow, which is what defenses do, is sack Joe Burrow. So
they really missed Von Miller once they lost him.
They did. I've gotten really critical of Sean McDermott. I just don't know. I don't know if he's gonna get over. Like he's gotten to here, and it's like he's on the peak, but he can't.
It's funny. I just had a conversation earlier with Bills fans, and like 2 of them were going at each other. One was saying like if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, McDermott and Bean probably have to go, and the other one's like, you're fucking crazy. And I just kind of interjected and said like, I think Jeremy's the one guy who was saying like McDermott probably should be fired if they don't win it. I'm like, I think he's kind of in a realistic situation where you lose your voice if you're not successful, and in Buffalo, winning the division is no longer successful. Winning the division is expected.
Yeah.
Successful is a Super Bowl championship. And if you don't get there, the players start to grumble. Diggs is already kind of floated through his agent quietly off the record that he wants out of Buffalo, right? He wants to be somewhere where he can win a title. If that's not in Buffalo, next year, he's going to force his way out. It's going to start to really look like you've got to make some moves at the top or you're going to get left holding the bag there in Buffalo. So I'll be rooting for Buffalo. I do want to put that disclaimer out there. I know my dad's watching. I'll be rooting for Buffalo. I've got a soft spot for them. But the AFC this year is as tough as it's ever been, if not more tough, especially with the addition of Rodgers with the Jets. Lamar Jackson's going to be healthy to start the season. This AFC could be unbelievable. And we haven't even mentioned Andy's team from last year. Denver added maybe one of, top 3 probably coaches in the NFL. Sean Payton.
Now they're my fucking team. Watch them win the goddamn division,
Listen, I gave them consideration because I have respect for Sean Payton, and I think he's going to fix that offense. They had a lot of problems last year trying to pander to Russ. Sean's not going to do that. They could be dangerous, right? You just never know with these teams. And none of us talked about the Chargers going very far. You know, a couple of us have. I think we all actually had them in the playoffs.
That's because we all saw that Jaguars game.
Yes, we did, right? Blowing that lead in the playoffs. But they are a dangerous team when things are working. So the AFC is going to be fucking tough.
The Bills. My last thing for the Bills that sucks for them is they've got two things working against them right now. It was can't get past the Chiefs. And then it was like, now you can't get past the Chiefs, can't get past the Bengals, but the Bengals got past the Chiefs. So, those two things kind of really that are one big thing.
While they were building to beat the Chiefs, the Bengals came on the map and said, we've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Not only did they beat the Chiefs, but now they beat the Bills. And I do think that the McDermott thing is, it's like not every coach is great at building a culture and then winning with that culture they've built. Yeah. And I think McDermott did a really good job of building that in Buffalo, but is he the guy to lead them to the promised land? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. They need their Jay Gruden to come in and win with Tony Dungy's team. I mean, that might be the reality, to be honest. That might be the reality in Buffalo right now. They may not have that guy. We'll see this year. This is going to be, I think, a make or break year for Sean McDermott, especially there in Buffalo. But, the AFC is going to be fun to watch in the playoffs.
Fuck yeah, they are. No doubt. That's going to be a dogfight. I mean, from 7 seed to 1 seed, it is going to be an absolute fucking knockdown, drag out, no doubt. Yeah. Who knows? We're going to all be wrong, and the fucking Broncos are going to be Super Bowl champions. We're going to be straight up assholes on this show who don't know shit about fuck.
Jimmy G's going to go win a fucking chip with the Raiders.
All right, enough. We've crossed the hour mark. We've done well. Covered our picks. Welcome back, boys. It's been a while.
Back.
Fucking missed you guys. It's been a while. Glad to have you back. Andy, any parting words?
Yeah, I just want to say when you guys tune in and we're nitpicking these players, because we all do that, where he sucks, I hate this guy. Let's sit back and let's take a moment to enjoy the great, because you're watching historic players play right now, whether you know it or not. You're watching the Joe Montanas, you're watching the John Elways, the Barry Sanders, you're watching these kind of guys. So I feel like we all get caught up in the moment of getting pissed at somebody. I hate this. I hate Aaron Rodgers. I used to say it for years. I think we should enjoy the phenomenal talent we have, because in 20 years some of these guys are going to be enshrined forever. And it sucks to think back of how much you hated on somebody instead of just enjoying them.
Damn, positivity fucking mode, dude. This whole Fortress of Solitude fucking changed you, Doug. Gary, what do you got?
Yeah, he's got the halo on now for sure. I mean, new season starting, a lot of young talent. The way the NFL has changed, we're seeing a lot more rookies influence the game as well. So that's certainly fun to watch. Not just skill position players, not just the offensive linemen that we used to see really make an impact with teams. We're seeing young quarterbacks, and we had a really big crop come out this year. How many of those go on to be successful? It's a lot of times it's shooting darts in the dark, but young talent, really fun season. The AFC is going to be hyper competitive. There's always a team that's going to surprise us too. It's going to go from worst to first. Maybe Baker Mayfield's down there in Tampa and he's going to be fucking lighting the world on fire. He's got some receivers down there, man, with Evans and Godwin, but
Listen. I meant to say this point earlier, so I'm just gonna throw this shit out now. The NFC East has passed the fucking torch of being the worst division in football to the NFC South. That is official. As of last year, that is official. Yeah. So we didn't talk about it much last year. I will say it at the fucking preseason now. Yeah. The torch of worst has passed. Okay, that fucking toilet bowl trophy resides in the NFC South.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. But I'm excited, man. Next Sunday we've got games. So about a week, and actually next Thursday is our first game. 9 days from now, we got our first action of 2023.
We
Andy's
fucking made
Lions
it, boys.
taking on the Chiefs, man.
We fucking
Riding
made it,
into
boys.
Arrowhead, biting kneecaps, baby.
Biting kneecaps. MCDC heading into Arrowhead.
Gang shit, boy.
Right.
All right. Mode, always a fucking pleasure to see you, brother. Gary, always a pleasure to see you. Man, panel of fucking studs
That hurt you
up
to say,
here.
didn't it?
I hesitated for sure. I'm also
I thought it was
hesitating about
going
my
somewhere
Super
else.
Bowl pick. Nah, dude, I wanted to stay with it. I was like, I'm gonna be, Andy was positive, so I'll be positive. I'm really waffling hard about my Super Bowl pick, dog. I'm trying to go. I really want to pick Bengals, but it's gonna be the fucking Chiefs. I want to be wrong. I want to see Joey Burr smoking another fucking cigar on a couch somewhere, being just an absolute fucking just hound. Anyways,
You know what? I almost cringe to see Joe Burrow if it's either of the two teams I think it's going to be, because those fucking defenses are going to be a nightmare.
Yeah,
for that
fucking Nick
line.
Bosa.
Food for thought.
Nick Bosa getting after Joey Burr.
Oh, God.
Bless his heart.
Brandon Graham getting after Joey Burr.
Christ.
Yikes.
May God have mercy on his soul. Well, from all of us at Backyard Sports, my name's Raul Herrera. I got Andy Flynn. I got Gary Freeze over here. We'll see you guys next week. Welcome back to the NFL season. This is Backyard Blitz, brought to you by Backyard Sports. Fucking out of here.